Imagine paying $5,000 for a handbag and watching it lose half its value before you've even peeled off the sticker. That's not a hypothetical. That's happening right now. For decades, luxury brands sold more than leather and fabric. They sold certainty. Certainty that what you bought would age well, that it would hold value, that it would quietly say you've arrived without needing to shout. But today, resale platforms are flooded. Discounts are spreading like wildfire through outlets that never used to discount. Once untouchable brands are quietly slashing prices just to move inventory off warehouse floors. The same logos that once symbolized restraint, taste, and cultural relevance are starting to feel loud, common, overplayed. And here's the uncomfortable question luxury doesn't want you asking: how did brands built on scarcity end up everywhere at once? This isn't just a market correction. This isn't a temporary slowdown waiting for wealthy consumers to return. This is panic selling behavior. From consumers dumping bags they regret buying, and from brands saps and desperate to hit quarterly targets they never should have set. In this video, we're counting down 10 luxury labels triggering quiet chaos behind the velvet rope. From the worst collapses to the one brand barely holding the line. Though even that grip is slipping. Some of these names shocked industry analysts who thought they were immune. Some are already losing the collector class that built their reputation. And number one isn't the weakest brand on this list. It's the one exposing the biggest lie luxury ever sold. Stay to the end. The final reveal reframes everything you think you know about how status actually works in 2026. The 10. Cello A soft Parisian femininity. Effortless wealth that didn't need to announce itself. The I don't need logos era before quiet luxury became a buzzword trending on social media. Chloe was the brand for women who understood taste as an instinct, not an algorithm. Identity dilution, too many collections, too little clarity. Creative directors rotating like temp workers. The emotional anchor, that distinct romantic sensibility, just vanished. When everything is Chloe, nothing is Chloe. Weak resale demand across major platforms. Year-over-year interest is flat to declining. Collector activity has basically disappeared. The people who used to hunt vintage Chloe pieces have moved on to other obsessions. The secondary market doesn't lie. It's a real-time referendum on desire. And Chloe is losing that vote. Once romantic, now forgettable. It's like a beautiful song no one remembers the lyrics to. You might recognize the melody if it played, but you'd never search for it yourself. If Chloe faded quietly into irrelevance, the next brand burned itself out loudly. 9. Versace loud glamour. Sexual confidence cranked to 11. High-octane luxury that made no apologies for being exactly what it was. Versace was the brand of people who wanted to be seen and loved every second of it. Logo fatigue and aesthetic mismatch with today's taste shift toward minimalism and stealth wealth. Medusa heads and Baroque prints everywhere. Gold hardware screaming for attention. It all worked when culture celebrated maximalism. But culture moved. Versace didn't. Falling consumer consideration scores in luxury sentiment tracking. Resale price retention is weak compared to historical benchmarks. Items that used to command premium pricing now sit unsold or require steep discounts. The collector community has largely exited. What remains is fast fashion consumers buying logo pieces as costume jewelry. From bold confidence to costume energy. It's like playing a club anthem at a brunch crowd. The song hasn't changed. The room has. When loud stopped working, even innovation couldn't save the next brand. Rate, Balenciaga cultural disruption. Fashion as conceptual art. Irony, weaponized as status. Wearing a $2,000 piece that looked like it came from a thrift store because it came from Balenciaga. This was luxury for people who understood the joke. Shock fatigue. Controversy collapse. Confused identity that crossed lines consumers wouldn't forgive? When your entire brand is built on pushing boundaries, you eventually push too far. And when trust breaks in luxury, it doesn't heal quickly. Volatile resale performance. Huge spikes, followed by steep drops. Collector exit across key demographics. Demand patterns now look like a meme stock chart instead of a heritage brand trajectory. Items that were cultural moments 6 months ago are now deep discounted on resale platforms. Status became uncomfortable instead of aspirational. Balenciaga turned into a meme stock in couture form. High volatility, no stability, and everyone's constantly asking if they should sell. But what happens when quiet luxury itself gets too loud? 7. Bottega Veneta, the ultimate quiet luxury signal. No logos. Pure restraint. The Intrecciato weave as the only identifier, and only if you knew what to look for. Bottega Veneta was the brand for people who didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Overexposure. Trend saturation. The quiet luxury movement got loud. When everyone from fashion editors to influencers to your coworker is carrying the same subtle pouch, it stops being subtle. It becomes a uniform. And uniforms aren't luxurious. They're standardized. Noticeable softening in resale values post-hype cycle. Items from the peak Daniel Lee era are holding better than current releases, which tells you everything about trajectory. Consumer excitement has cooled from white-hot to lukewarm. The insider signal got decoded and mass adopted. From insider signal to influencer uniform. It's a whisper that got amplified through so many microphones that it became noise. And then there's a brand that tried to stay classic, but blinked. Number 6. Dior Heritage Elegance. The Lady Dior as a symbol of timeless femininity. Princess Diana's endorsement turned it into cultural iconography that transcended fashion. Dior was safe luxury, trusted luxury. The brand you could buy without second-guessing yourself. Aggressive pricing paired with repetitive design cycles. Price increases that outpaced innovation. The same silhouettes, the same materials, the same stories. Just more expensive every season. Trust requires earned value. When price grows faster than perceived quality, trust erodes. Cooling resale momentum despite maintained high brand recognition. The logo still has power, but the products have lost their ability to generate excitement or urgency. Investment pieces from 5 years ago outperform current releases in secondary markets. That's a red flag, trusted, but no longer thrilling. Dior became a luxury watch that tells time perfectly. Nothing more, nothing less. Reliable, expected, safe. And in luxury, safe is the kiss of death. Familiarity is comfort, until comfort becomes the problem itself. Here's the truth most luxury market analyses completely miss. This isn't about bad design. It's about too much access. Luxury didn't collapse because people stopped caring about quality or craftsmanship or heritage. It cracked because too many people could participate at once. Scarcity wasn't lost accidentally through poor planning. It was monetized intentionally. Brands looked at exclusivity and saw untapped revenue. They looked at wait lists and saw inefficiency. They looked at desire and saw a conversion rate problem to solve. So they solved it, they scaled, they optimized, they grew. And in doing so, they destroyed the very mechanism that made them valuable. Because luxury has never been about the object. It's about the separation the object creates. And you can't scale separation. You can only destroy it. If you're deep into this breakdown, pause for a second. Hit subscribe. Because what's coming in the top 5 redefines how status actually works now that the old signals have been commodified. Number 5. Saint Laurent Rock Chic Minimalism. Sharp confidence with an edge. The brand for people who understood that black leather and clean lines would never go out of style. Saint Laurent was cool. The kind of cool that doesn't try. Over-distribution and logo flattening. The YSL monogram went from subtle signature to mass-market identifier plastered on everything from phone cases to keychains. Distribution expanded into channels that diluted brand equity. When luxury becomes too available, it stops being luxury. Stable but uninspiring resale performance. Not collapsing but not exciting anyone either. It's the middle of the pack in every metric that matters. The pieces still work. They're still well made. They're still fine. And fine is luxury's worst possible outcome. Cool turned corporate. Saint Laurent became a leather jacket everyone owns. Still functional. Still looks decent. But it doesn't make a statement anymore. Because the statement has been made by everyone else already. Now we reach the giants, where the real panic begins. Warrant IV, Prada intellectual fashion. Anti-trend luxury for people too sophisticated to follow trends. Miuccia Prada built an empire on being deliberately out of step with conventional beauty. Prada was luxury for thinkers. Volume growth diluted its outsider mystique. The brand that prided itself on being different expanded so aggressively that it became common. When the anti-trend becomes the trend, what are you actually selling? Mid-tier resale retention. Better than some, worse than the true icons. Demand acceleration has slowed noticeably. Items aren't losing value rapidly, but they're not gaining cultural momentum either. The intellectual cachet has been replaced by accessible aspiration. That's a net negative for Prada's positioning. Smart, but no longer special. It's like a university degree everyone suddenly has. Still valuable in absolute terms, but the relative advantage, the whole point, has evaporated. But nothing compares to what happened next. The 3. Burberry British Heritage Royalty, the check pattern as recognizable as any national flag. Burberry was establishment luxury, the brand of people who belonged to institutions that mattered. Respectability made fashionable, identity confusion and logo overshoot. Multiple creative director changes left the brand searching for coherence. Meanwhile, the check pattern got licensed, copied, and diluted until it lost all meaning. Burberry tried to be everything to everyone and ended up being nothing to anyone. Sharp profit declines reported in recent quarters. Significant discount pressure across wholesale channels. Resale values have compressed dramatically on all but vintage archive pieces. The brand recognition is still high. The brand desire has collapsed. Prestige turned pedestrian. It's a royal accent used in every commercial, every voiceover, every marketing campaign. Still, technically posh, but so overused it's become parody. And then comes the brand everyone thought was completely untouchable. 2. Louis Vuitton. The global status uniform. The LV monogram as the most recognized luxury symbol on Earth. For decades, Louis Vuitton was the answer to what luxury brand? Full stop. Ubiquity as strategy. Scale as moat. Overproduction masked as exclusivity. Calling something limited doesn't make it scarce when you're producing tens of millions of units annually. Louis Vuitton became too good at selling. They optimized availability so effectively that they destroyed desirability. Resale compression on everything except true icon pieces and collaborations. Core monogram items that used to hold 70–80% of retail now struggle to hit 50%. The logo still works in emerging markets, but in established luxury markets, it's begun signaling the opposite of what it once did. Success became its weakness. Louis Vuitton turned into a private jet that went commercial. Still expensive, still functional, still gets you there. But the entire point was that most people couldn't get on board. Which brings us to number 1. Number 1, Gucci total cultural domination. fashion leadership that bent the entire industry to its vision. Alessandro Michele's maximalist renaissance didn't just revive Gucci, it redefined what luxury could be. For nearly a decade, Gucci was the conversation. Creative whiplash plus overexposure. Michele's departure created a vision vacuum. The rapid shift to Sabato de Sarno's minimalism confused existing customers without attracting enough new ones. Meanwhile, the Michele-era pieces flooded resale markets as collectors exited en masse. Steep sales drops across all regions. Resale values have collapsed. Some pieces trading at 30–40% of original retail. Brand fatigue shows up in every consumer sentiment metric. Gucci went from cultural lightning rod to cautionary tale in less than 18 months, from trendsetter to warning label. Gucci became the loudest song that killed the entire playlist. It played so often, so everywhere, that people started changing the station the moment it came on. Gucci didn't just fall harder than other brands. It exposed the fragility of modern luxury itself, because Gucci did everything right by contemporary business standards. They maximized reach, they dominated social media, they collaborated constantly, they generated endless content and buzz, and it destroyed them. Gucci proves that luxury can't scale like tech, that hype cycles eventually burn out, that cultural relevance is temporary, but brand dilution is permanent. This ranking isn't really about handbags or fashion houses or runway shows. It's about status inflation. Luxury used to be a signal because it was genuinely scarce. Today, too many brands chased scale, hype, and algorithm-friendly visibility, and accidentally turned exclusivity into content. Consumers noticed. They noticed that limited edition doesn't mean limited when you release 47 limited editions per year. They noticed that exclusive doesn't mean exclusive when anyone with a credit card can buy it. They noticed that prestige doesn't transfer when the brand is simultaneously courting billionaires and financing college students. That's why resale prices matter more than runway applause now. That's why quiet luxury isn't a trend, it's a correction. And that's why the next era of luxury won't be about louder branding, more collaborations, or better marketing campaigns. It will be about controlled absence. The brands that survive the next decade will master three things. Produce less, not as a supply chain strategy, but as a philosophical commitment. Say less. Resist the algorithmic pressure to be everywhere, always, performing brand theater. Resist the urge to monetize every moment of demand. Leave money on the table. Let people want what they can't have. Because luxury is returning to what it always was, not what you can buy, but what others can't. The separation, the distinction, the gap, that's the product. That's what you're paying for. Everything else is just leather and thread. If this breakdown changed how you see status, hit subscribe, because the next Lux Crisis episode exposes the new luxury winners, the brands positioning themselves for the post-hype era, before everyone else notices.